Hey and welcome to Neverwinter with Aragon. So with module 26, we have the new Demon Web Pits dungeon. And if you beat the master version, you can obtain some fancy new mythic rings. These Abyssal loop rings. And you can see all of those in the collections just right here. There's a total of 10 new rings. And well, we've got to go and check their bonuses and see if they actually work the way they say they do. However, before we get started, make sure to go to your claims valuables, your promo, and claim the new Dark Butterfly Wings mount. And if you haven't already got the free call mode in the title, go ahead and do so. This comes from the claim free items. You still have just over 7 days to log in consecutively to get these free rewards. Pretty nice. It is a 4-slot mount with exactly all of these bonuses, from Protector's Covenant down to Combatant's Maneuver. The ones with the recommended, you can have the preferred insignia. The ones without, you cannot. And the ones with an insignia in the box is the recommended or the must-have ones by using those selections. Ultimately, it's got Shepherd's Devotion and Gladiator's Guile, which are pretty useful, along with Executioner's Covenant for a DPS or Protectors for a tank. Just be aware that this new mount is not account-wide, so make sure to select it for the character you wish to have it on. So here on the preview server, we have every single ring to test out. We're going to start things off with the Opal Abyssal Loop Ring. This one says it will provide additional healing to your multi-target heal powers. So you would assume that would affect, like on a Paladin, Divine Shelter and Divine Touch. And well, when you go and actually check that on yourself here, you will note that it does not increase your healing. That is because I am only healing one target. You have to actually heal 3 or more targets in order for you to gain that 7% bonus. So when you go to cast a heal power, the game checks how many targets are you going to heal. If it's 3 or more, you gain the 7% boost to your healing. If it's less, then you do not. So that led to a lot of people, myself included, initially thinking this ring was broken and not working, because I went through every single class checking the AoE powers and they were not gaining the 7% extra bonus because I was testing it when I was just by myself. So I went and got all the test data here for all the different classes, testing like Healing Word, Guardian of Life, Astral Shield, going on to the Paladin, your Divine Shelter, Divine Touch, Sanctuary, the Bard Healer, you got your Sheltering Etude, your Rejuvenating Carol, and then you've got the Warlock with their Soul Storm, Revitalize, and then some of their daily powers. So we end up with this. These are the powers I tested, highlighted in bold, that do gain the bonus from the ring. Keep in mind again, you have to heal 3 or more targets, and then you gain that 7% additional outgoing healing. Now that 7% is added to your outgoing healing stat, which means it's not that good. It means you're adding to what you have, and the more you have, the less effective it is. But we move on to the next ring, the Amethyst Abyssal Loop. This one says it will affect your multi-target powers that hit 3 or more enemies. And yes, that works very similar to the multi-target heal ring, wherein you need to have 3 or more targets. You have to actually hit those targets, and then the ring will work. And it will be an additive damage buff like most other damage buffs, but ultimately, yes, it makes the ring very good for AoE damage builds focused around beating up multiple enemies. Just if you only have 2 or 1 enemy left, you do not gain the bonus, even though you are using AoE powers. So we move to the Diamond Abyssal Loop, and this one's very straightforward. Manticore's Main Bite, working exactly like your rugged helmet here. Again, they will not stack. You can only make use of one of them. So if you were to use this ring, you would switch your helmet over to something else. Maybe if you're a Paladin, you would take the Divinity Regen. But keep in mind, the damage dealt by this ring is only affected by your hit points and the enemy's deflect and debuffs. So if you make the target take increased damage, then they'll take increased damage from your Manticore's Main Bite. That is why you want to trigger it during an artifact call where you have like the effectiveness goes through the roof, and you can end up dealing like 1.5 million with this even though your hit points is only at 1,000,000. And of course, if the enemy deflects, well, the damage gets reduced by like nearly a half. So the ring works, could be pretty useful in some builds. We go to the Emerald Abyss loop. At will powers do 8% more damage. A copy and paste of one of the Dragon Hunt rings, so they couldn't really go wrong there. It works, and it's an additive damage buff. The only class I really see using this would be, say, a Barbarian, and even then there might be better options. Then we go to the Malachite Abyssal Ring. This one requires you to stand still for 6 seconds. When you do so, you gain the buff right here, Bulwark Preparation. You can see it only lasts us a short duration, 6 seconds, and then it's gone. And then, after 6 seconds standing still again, you gain the buff. So, yeah. It's not that reliable, but it can help. If you're setting up for, let's say, a tank buster, you can stand still for that 6 seconds, and as long as you have prepared within 6 seconds before you get hit, you'll be good to have that boost. I just don't see it as all too reliable, and in most cases there are better options to use as a survivability ring. You can see it works. You gain the bonus awareness 10% and the 5% stamina regen. Then we go to the Platinum Abyssal loop. This one just gives 5% accuracy and 3% action point regen. Pretty useful just for the stats, but accuracy is yeah, it's the last stat you'll go for, so it's not really a priority to use this ring. There'll generally be better options than it, but it does work. Then we go to the Ruby Abyssal loop. 10% additional damage for your daily powers. That also nicely works. Just keep in mind, daily powers are not going to result in much damage unless you're able to spam them a lot. At least if they're the impactful type. So maybe on an AoE build for a wizard where they do use their daily power a lot. But even then, you're better off with a ring that's going to boost all your damage than just 10% to your daily. But yeah, it works. You will gain the damage buff there. Then we go to the Sapphire. This one should just give a 5% boost to your encounter powers. Nice and basic. Copy and paste we've seen before. Again from Dragon Hunts. And it works. You will gain the damage buff. But we move on to the Topaz Abyssal loop. And this one is very interesting. It can give like 30% stats, which is just nuts for a ring, along with 8% forte, which would be considered even more stats, 38% stats. That's insane. Well, the way the ring works is it gives you that 8% forte all the time. Then when your daily power is full, you gain 15% deflect and 15% deflect severity. A pretty viable ring for a tank, which, let's say, doesn't have the most impactful daily power. If I'm running a paladin tank and, let's say, I don't need my daily for survivability and the team doesn't really need the small support from, let's say, Shield of Faith, or then healer doesn't need the support from Sheltering Light, then I may as well run around with the full daily power and just gain that permanent survivability of 15% deflection and deflect severity. It's not something you can 100% rely on, but it's pretty useful. There's not any other ring like this out there, giving such a massive boost. And yeah, it works. You will see the increase to your deflect severity, and forte. Just be aware though that sadly the ring gives outgoing healing rating. Would have been nice if it gave incoming healing, but you would then think this ring is more directed at a healer, especially one that's trying to stack, let's say, performance, divinity, soul weave regeneration with the forte, and then they gain on the side a boost to their survivability. Yeah, you can totally use this ring on a healer, but I would say there's a little bit better options just to get the stats you need and just manage your divinity or whatever heal resource a bit better, and you shouldn't need the forte. The forte will give a minuscule benefit anyway, but it's a unique ring, that's for sure. And finally, we have the Garnet Abyssal loop. This one says it would give 8% more damage against enemies who have a shield. Not working in PvP, but the ring works. However, it actually gives a 10% damage buff, not 8%. So it's working a bit better than intended. And ultimately, I don't see a lot of uses for this ring Other than, let's say you're in a low damage group, where when you kill the godly weapon, you have to go back to fighting Loth. However, it's a DPS check. She will put a shield on herself, and that shield you need to break before 1 minute is over. So in a lower damage group, that might be somewhat of a struggle, especially after just calling artifacts and using your daily powers and so on to break the godly weapon. So yeah, this is like the literally only place I see this ring having much use at this point, and then also at the end when she phases, you again have the exact same DPS check. She's on no hit points, but she shields up, and you have to break that shield before 1 minute or you all die. I think only in this fight would it be useful to have that ring. With the second boss, yes, he has a lot of shield, but it's never really a big priority to burn down the shield like ASAP. What you want to do is have maximum damage when he doesn't have a shield, so that you can get through the fight quicker. So that is all 10 rings there, tested, and my thoughts and opinions on their uses. Just be aware though that if you do manage to run the set, like on a damage dealer, I could run the platinum one plus the encounter power one or the at will one, and you gain the set there of Abyssal Fury. And this set bonus will be 2.5% additional damage when you're 25 feet or closer to your target. That's pretty nice, especially if you're a melee class. That's just a flat reliable boost. And ultimately, the item level from these versus like your Amethyst rings is quite the big jump there. You're going up 400 item level per ring and gaining a set bonus. So it can be quite appealing to use both of them, and ultimately I would. If you're a damage dealer, go for 2 of these rings. Accuracy and encounter power damage, or accuracy and at-will damage. Get the set bonus to damage, and they'll perform better than most other rings. However, if you are at the level of being able to complete the Examined Reliquary trial, then you would be better off running the Repulsion Ring and just kind of forgetting about the set bonus, because this one can give you up to 6% additional damage, plus then the Abyssal Loop Ring giving you the accuracy and AP gain, which helps again all of your damage. And of course, keep in mind some classes will do even better with the Band of Air than any of the new rings, particularly Rogue and Warlocks. So hopefully this has been somewhat insightful to you guys with the new rings, all of them tested and how they actually work. A bit sneaky there with the Healing Ring working pretty much exactly like the AoE Damage Ring, where you have to actually heal multiple targets with your AoE powers in order to gain the boost. So a massive thank you again to all these channel members for their added support, and we'll see you guys around. Goodbye for now.